After years of helping online businesses make more money by advising them on their taxes and finances, I've now made it my mission to reach as many profitable online businesses as possible to help them save on their taxes and make more money. On my quest, I bring you proven and real profitable online business owners, and we dig into how they do it. Hello again. Thanks for being here on The Few, the Proud, the Profitable. As always, this is the podcast where we talk exclusively to 6- and 7-figure online business owners. We know that in this space, there's a lot of people who exaggerate, who inflate what they do and what their successes are. So what we've done here is we take the guesswork out of it for you. We only talk to people we've personally vetted and we know are actually making real money online. Today, we've got one of those, Rachel Pedersen. Thanks for being here.
Thank you so much for having me, Micah.
Yeah, we're really excited. This is going to be a lot of fun. So you've got a pretty great following online. So a lot of people watching this know who you are. But for the people who don't, just tell them who you are and what it is you do.
For sure. I'm Rachel Pedersen. I'll use an D in my last name. Everyone always misspells it. But I'm a Minnesota mom. I have 3 kids. We survive the Minnesota winter every single year, including last year. But I am basically obsessed with social media. And social media, I first started really organic on social because, to put it frankly, I couldn't afford Facebook ads. So I had to learn organic and how to honestly grow a following and how to get results for my clients. And so I started this, I want to say 4 years ago, maybe max. No, not even. 3.5 years ago is when I went full time. And my business has grown pretty quickly, and we've expanded into a lot of marketing organically through paid advertising and through kind of like guerrilla marketing that can get kind of crazy sometimes.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, and the longer I've been doing this personally and then having clients deal with it, the more and more respect I have for people who are able to grow a following organically. Because on the surface, it looks easy. It's like, oh, well, you just post a bunch, you shout it from the rooftops, and no problem. If you're obnoxious enough and will blast your stuff, of course people will eventually start following you. I don't think people realize just how difficult it is to grow a real following, not one you've bought, and one that really engages with what you're putting out there.
Yeah, and I think even more than that, because even engagement can be so faked today. Like, that's part of the reason I barely do the Instagram game, because it drives me crazy how many people are paying for engagements, and I don't play that game. So you really like see my legit stats. But it's even more than engagement. It's who's sharing your message, who's telling all their friends and family about you, who's ultimately buying the things that you put out there or becoming like an evangelist for your brand. That's even deeper than engagement that most people are working towards, you know?
Right. And that's very true, because what we'll talk about is, even if you do get engagement, are you getting the right kind of engagement to where it's converting to customers? And this is one thing I want to talk to you about, because I know you've got a good TikTok following. And for most people, we'll troll TikTok because I think a lot of people just get high on the dopamine rush and, oh, I'm getting all these people watching my stuff, not considering what sort of traffic they're getting. So I do want to talk to you about that, about how you've managed to navigate not only getting a following on there, but that transforming and curating that to where it's getting you the right kind of people who are actually buying your stuff.
I love that point. So one thing that was really interesting for me with TikTok is it was at first really like a distraction. And I was like, I want to just create these videos. This is so fun. But then I started kind of seeing some signs on the wall, like some writing on the wall that this might be something that's here to stay. And as I started to see kind of these signs, I was like, I think I should honestly do a little more research into what TikTok is all about. And so here are the latest stats as of my call with TikTok corporate just, I think, like 2 weeks ago. There are 891 million active monthly users, crazy, and nearly 40% of the users are over the age of 30. So that was kind of mind-blowing to me. Isn't that shocking?
Well, my first exposure to TikTok was Pay Money Wubby on YouTube. He did this big sort of expose when it was on Musical.ly. He was talking about how it was all these like 14-year-olds who were doing these like overly sexual videos. And my impression has always was, at least, especially that it's like skews to a much younger user base. So that's really interesting to me.
Yeah, it's grown a lot in the older demographics. And one of the things that's interesting is TikTok's been really, really working to bring on celebrities that attract an older following. So, for example, they've really supported Howie Mandel, Arnold Schwarzenegger. They've also brought on Will Smith. Reese Witherspoon is on there, Jessica Alba. There's a whole bunch of kind of not older, but you know what I mean, not teeny bopper celebrities that are on this app trying to bring an older user base. But the other thing that I found kind of interesting is that they started out really young, and that scares most people. They're like, that's not a good sign until you remember that the younger users are the ones that have the most expendable income because it's not theirs. And if they do have a job, it's all expendable. That's amazing, right? Like 100% of their income is expendable. Amazing. But then also, it's where there's a younger user base that you see potential for growth because people are loyal to the platform that they kind of grow up on. So, for example, a lot of us, we're on Facebook starting at the age of 16, 18, 22, and we're on there, and it's hard for us to adapt to a new platform because that's like our platform. So that I saw those signs and I was like, this is time to start getting onto this app and really, really honestly honing in an older audience.
Yeah. So that's super interesting that the demographics are changing. So I'm interested with that though, because what I've seen people in the IM space where I think they're doing it wrong, and I haven't tried to get on TikTok yet. I'm a little bit of a late adopter here, but they have very, very professional Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram presences. Everything is very curated and professional for that lens. Then on TikTok, they're just running around in like dinosaur costumes and acting a fool. So how have you managed to do it to where you're keeping either a continuity or having it to where it's actually you're getting the right engagement on there?
So one thing that I've done, and this actually kind of goes back to your original point of building a following. One thing I've done that at times I would get nervous about is I'm very true to who I am. And I'm a pretty goofy person. I sometimes say the wrong things. I'm not the most polished person all the time. And so I think that made it an easier segue for me onto TikTok. I'm not my craziest, goofiest, most embarrassing self on every single platform all the time, but those moments do appear on all platforms. So when people got to go on to TikTok, they said, oh my gosh, we get to see like all of the goofy side of Rachel. And a lot of people at least that's what they shared with me. They enjoyed being able to see the most like unleashed, goofiest version of me whenever they want. So for me, that segue was really easy, but I will say it doesn't just have to be ridiculous, crazy, running around in a dinosaur costume. The cool thing about TikTok is that it is able to be adapted to whatever your personality is, as long as you're willing to kind of identify the trends and then figure out how you play into that.
Okay. All right, cool. That's super interesting because again, I feel like it's a platform where it's clearly emerging and has this huge audience, but so many people are doing it wrong. So that insight's super interesting to me. Right, so cool. So second question that we ask everyone, and again, going to what we say at the outset that so many people are pretending to have profit and success. What's the best thing about having a profitable online business?
I will say I don't know the opposite. And I know that sounds kind of weird, but whenever I hear someone saying like, we haven't been profitable for 3 months, I get kind of sick to my stomach because I'm like, what do you mean you haven't been profitable? Like that is 101. Like you have to first and foremost take care of your house or else you don't have a business, you have an expensive hobby. Like that just blows my mind. So what I love most about having a profitable business is the ability to honestly do whatever we want. And I know that sounds kind of crazy, but for example, let's say Christmas is coming up and we want to do something awesome for our family, knowing that we have that ability and knowing that at any point we can pull different levers to adjust the profitability in our business is pretty honestly empowering. So there have been seasons that have been challenging, like having our third kid while running two businesses. That was, I don't know if that was stupid, but it was like really hard. And knowing that we could just go a little bit easier during that season, and just our profit margins would become smaller, but at the same time, I could back off a little bit. That was really empowering for us, knowing no matter what happens, we've got runway.
Well, yeah, because you have the flexibility to start, which is huge.
Yep.
And I think what happens, I think because in the IM space, especially, you get this with all businesses, you get with all online businesses. I think the IM space is the worst because the claims are so inflated and people make it seem like it's so easy.
Yeah.
What you run into is people who will do some relatively entry-level course on how to run Facebook ads, how to be a coach, how to do something, and they buy it for $97, $497, $997,
Yeah.
whatever, but they don't actually end up with any sort of expertise. So then they have the cost of the training, they get upsold to having a mentor or some kind of mastermind they can't afford. So they have, like you said, it ends up being an expensive hobby because they're buying all these things that they're told they need to succeed, but they don't actually have the skill set and the sales ability to get anything to offset that on the front end.
That's really hard for me to kind of like stomach the idea that people aren't taking their own skill sets into, I guess they're not being responsible for them as well. I think about every single time that I have that like twinge of, I don't know something, it really bothers me.
Yeah.
And so personally, I probably learned the most from lots of searching, like Google searching, YouTube searching. I'll spend hours on a blog learning how to organize my content with blogs versus podcasts versus YouTube videos. And I do that because I hate the feeling of, am I skilled or do I just think I'm skilled? Do I just think I'm an expert because that's what everyone's saying? And so just, a week ago, I spent 7 or 8 hours learning the new functionalities of Instagram stories because I don't want to be left in the dust. And so as much as I get frustrated about the entry-level courses that don't actually teach any skills, I think ultimately each person needs to take responsibility for themselves, get some books, and honestly learn the skills that you're lacking. And I know that's like tough love, but.
Well, yeah, and it's an easy thing to say, but I think part of it does end up being a little bit of laziness. Because and that's kind of what will attract some people to the IM space in general, is that it's being sold as, wow, this is so easy. I was homeless last month and now I make $1 million a month and I work 30 minutes a day. It's sold at these extremes of just how preposterously easy it is. And I think to an extent that attracts people who don't really want to work to begin with. So then they get into it and they realize, wow, this is a job like anything else, and they're not willing to put in the time or in the additional money to get their skills where they need to be.
I actually really agree with that. And, sometimes people will say, like, it seems, Rachel, like your business soared really fast and like it came effortlessly to you. And I'm like, well, tell that to like my adrenals, because for years I was working 80 to 100 hours a week. My adrenal fatigue was crazy. And there was zero part of it that was easy. The only easy part was knowing this is what I want to do. That was the only like easy part,
Right. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I don't think, especially when you're presenting the good parts of the business, I think people who don't know any better and don't want to dig at all, they're like, all they see are the highlights and they don't have any sort of reality check of like, well, yeah, cool, she's posting the fun things of what's going on, but there's a ton of work that's going on to make these snapshots possible.
Yeah, I've tried to show some of like the behind the scenes, and I do once in a while, and I'm like, just remember that this is what you don't see. Why? Because it doesn't look as cool,
Well, and yeah, it's not as engaging or fun or interesting. There's a balance between not showing anything versus just being this weird Debbie Downer of like, look how hard my life is. This is so tough.
Right. I think that it's important to just remember that when you see someone and you're like, oh, it looks like their life and their business is so easy, remember that you don't showcase your down days. And there's a lot of reasons for that. That's the rarity, you know? No one showcases intentionally their blood, sweat, and tears, like, because that doesn't convert as well. So just always remember, you're only seeing the highlight reel. And as long as you know that, it's going to help you to realize I'm not abnormal. This is supposed to be hard. That helps me a lot, you know?
Yeah, completely.
Yep.
Well, and also not doing the highlight reel, but also for me, one thing I get so impatient. I think a lot of us do.
Oh,
I have to remember, I have to look back a year, 2 years, 3 years, 5. I have to look at the past to realize how far we've come. Because I think for a lot of us, we not only compare ourselves to other people, we don't compare, we compare ourselves to what our goals are for the future, not necessarily what we've already achieved.
For sure. One thing that really helped me with that is I've kept a journal since I was like 11 years old. So I have all of these journals. I have like dozens and dozens of journals, and I can easily go back and remember at any point. When we go through, like, let's say, for example, a dip where I feel frustrated with a lack of progress, or let me rephrase that, less progress than I would like. When we go through a season where it's really hard, or there's stuff that I just don't like facing, I go back and I remember, you know, like the entries where I said, I don't have money for diapers this month and I don't know what to do.
Right.
And suddenly it's like, okay, these are so much better problems. I can take this any day over that. And that's really been helpful for me to be able to reference, this is what life used to look like, you know?
Yeah, that's huge.
Yeah.
All right, perfect. And this is a good segue, because the third question we ask everyone is that cash flow is one of the things we deal with a lot in our practice.
Yep.
And one of the things that we hear from online business owners can be a real struggle. So
Mm-hmm.
you've got a nice, profitable business now.
Yep.
You had the growing pains of getting there. So along the way, how's that been something you've managed successfully?
Good question. I will say it's always a work in progress, I think, because especially as you're scaling, it's like you'll hit this point where you're scaling and you're like, whoa, this is eating into our profits more than I would like. Mm-hmm. And you have to reevaluate every single expenditure. Something that we just started doing this year, and at least this is working for us, is reevaluating expenses continually and saying, you know, we needed this last month. Do we still need it now? What do they call it? Zero sum budgeting, zero sum accounting, zero.
They could, I mean, everything has like 10 names.
Okay. So we started doing that, and it was funny because, for example, we would run Facebook ads according to what everyone else said was like killing it. And when we actually dove into the numbers, our sales didn't dry up when we cut the Facebook ads out. Mm-hmm. And so it was really odd. We were getting this double attribution of Facebook ads, and that saved us, you know, $30,000 to $45,000 a month. So when we started looking at each expense regularly, it's helped us to stay more profitable. But there are definitely seasons where it's like, oh my gosh, I really just freaking wish I had 200 grand I could just spend for fun on advertising today, you know. Right. But that's not the reality of building a profitable business.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah, that's what we do, especially for online businesses. But just since it's a more tangible example, one of the examples I always give will be construction clients we have, to where they'll think that certain jobs or types of jobs, or this customer is their best customer, their best type of work. And what we get them to do is to start coding every single expense to the customer, to the job, and to the class of job. And what will happen is they think that, man, installing windows is our bread and butter. This is the best thing possible. Or doing decks is great, or bathroom remodels, whatever it is. But then when we start coding that information, and then you're able to run profit and loss statements and other financials based on those parameters, we find that, okay, this one customer is huge. It's great, but your margins are razor thin on them. So you're super busy, you need to cut that out. This type of job, yeah, you get a ton of revenue in, but it takes your guys twice as long to do, and you're not actually making anything. I think it's true for any business, and you can apply that same principle to online business, where just doing really surface level financials can be very deceiving.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And that was one thing that we started to realize as we were diving into most of our marketing expenses, is that not all of it was designed to actually generate an ROI. And, most of it was actually there to, I guess, not cover up insecurities, but kind of like mask them, like hiring someone to support with Instagram posts because it's my least favorite platform, when that generated nothing. So, and that's like a painful reality, is facing all of those expenses that don't contribute anything to the bottom line.
Well, and especially with marketing, it's always funny when I'll have clients who hire someone who can tell isn't really an expert at whatever ads they're running, but they act like they are. And you can skew those numbers to look like whatever you want. And I think sometimes people get tied to, there's a PR person, the first time I heard it, they called it Vanity Metrics. And I've heard it a lot since. But that's what I always think of, is that I think it's really easy for us to get this dopamine rush based on these vanity metrics. Like, we're getting all these likes and these views and this is great. Doesn't necessarily mean it's actually doing anything aside from, you said, like, sort of padding our insecurities.
Oh, absolutely. And for a while, it drove me crazy because, there's a lot of external pressure being an expert in social media. People are like, well, then why don't you have the world's most engaged Instagram? Or why don't you, why don't I? Because honestly, I care about if we're profitable. I care about if we're actually moving the needle, and if it's changing, lots of lives around us by staying a business with cash flow. So, and that's tough though, that external pressure. And it's like, oh, I just have to do this based on what's best for me and my family. So the first time that I ever kind of realized it's okay to kind of let up the gas on the vanity metrics a bit was when I was reading a Dan Kennedy book, and it was the No BS Guide to Direct Marketing. I think that's what it's called. Magnetic Marketing, the No BS Guide to Direct Marketing. And he said, really, none of that matters. And it really comes down to, is this moving the needle, financially?
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
All right. Perfect. So, fourth question we ask everybody is, in a couple of minutes, to give us one of your main tips that you think that every online business owner should know.
Ooh, one of my main tips. Okay, so this is interesting. Every single person should start building their list or start aggressively growing their list. And I used to not believe this until we started making almost daily offers to my list. And suddenly it's like every single time we put out an offer, we get sales every single day. Yeah. What a crazy concept, right? Build your list and sell to your list. Duh. So even if you don't quite understand, like, do I have the world's best lead magnet? Do I have the perfect lead magnet? Is this the right one? Literally just start building your list today with whatever lead magnet you have, and start emailing offers to your list with an incredible value add or story. You'll get to know your list really fast. You'll get some awesome feedback, and it doesn't hurt to kind of condition them to getting regular offers.
Well, we'll run into that, and I think we've even been guilty of that before, where you do things to build your list. You've got opt-ins. We'll do a webinar for SCORE every year that we get this big influx. We have clients sign up. We're getting leads throughout the year, but then we'll just send out blogs and we'll go a long time without actually doing offers. And I think what happens when you have these stagnant lists, or these ones that you're not dealing with properly, is that when you do an offer, it can be a little bit of a shell shock to them when you actually start doing what you should and they're getting daily offers from you. It can kind of, you can have this little rebound effect if you're not, like you said, conditioning them properly to anticipate that.
I will say, so I went from emailing my list once a week to emailing them like up to 5 times a week. And a lot of people are like, no, that's way too much. Like, you cannot do that. But when I say like offers to my list every, almost every day, it sounds like I'm just a pitch fest in their inbox. But every single day I say, does this give value? Right. And so I tell a story, or I break a belief, or I give value or tips or something along those lines. And then the offer is kind of at the end. It's rare that it's like a hardcore pitch. But you kind of almost just have to do it, if that makes sense.
Right.
But I do recommend that people don't switch to like daily offers if they're not going to be able to keep it going, and especially
Sure.
not if it's just a straight pitch.
Sure. Well, I think it's a good clarification that you made there, that it's not just a straight sales offer. Because
Yes.
I had one client where they'd send value added things. They'd send things that were really good informational pieces, but they didn't want to do any selling. And someone prevailed on them that at the end, almost as a PS, they
Yes.
put, oh, by the way, here's this offer, check out our new course, or we have a discount on this. And every single email, every single time, they're getting not only sales, but pretty solid sales off of
Yes.
every email just from that little PS.
Yes. That was something we started adding, was that little, like you said, and I love how you explain that. It's that, oh, by the way, if you want more help with this, that's one of my favorite. If you want a little more help with this, here's this. But we also added like a 4-part PS to our emails, most of our emails, and that gives them opportunities to jump in where it feels appropriate for them too.
Yeah, that's awesome. Perfect. So last question we ask everybody is either what's the craziest tactic you've seen to sell something online, or what's the craziest thing you've seen sold online?
Oh, geez. I have to say everything from wish.com, the Wish app, their ads are brilliant. And that covers both, because I can't even think of specific examples, but sometimes I look at their ads and I'm like, how is this even legal? These are so disgusting. And it's a brilliant tactic to grab attention. They've clearly decided that that was something that they were going to do. And it's worked for them, which is kind of neat. The other thing that I've really enjoyed is watching Cards Against Humanity and their Black Friday sales every single year, like saying, this year you can give us money and you get nothing. Like straight up nothing. Send us money and you will get us nothing. And everyone thought it was a joke because they were like, there's no way. And they ended up making several $100,000 from people who thought that there might be something on the other side of it. And there wasn't.
Well, my favorite, it seems like every year or two, they'll do something crazy. They had that one year, it's like, we're just going to dig this hole.
Yes.
The more money you give us, the deeper this hole will get dug. Once you stop, then the hole stops. But we're not going to put anything here. This is just us digging a hole and you funding it.
Yeah. And then last year they had this like crazy Black Friday sale where they did this auction, and it was insane. It was like they were selling like cars for $1 and all this crazy stuff. It was nuts. It was brilliant though, because people were watching all day.
Yeah, people. Oh, I remember that now, because I remember there was someone I know. It's like they knew they weren't going to get it, but they get so mad because it'd be something they really wanted. And the whole day they're just refreshing, waiting for these insane deals to pop up.
Yep, it was so cool to watch.
Yeah, and that's what's interesting too, is seeing people. Everyone will bring up the Harmon brothers, people who are able to take, because outlandish sales, that in and of itself isn't unusual, but the way people are able to execute these things, that doing it outlandish but doing it in the right way, it's always interesting to me, just sort of the science behind doing marketing properly.
So true. I will say that those things can work, especially if they're aligned with your brand. So for example, my brand isn't aligned with like shock appeal necessarily. And so that wouldn't work for me, but it does work for a lot of people's brands. And it truly filters out the people who don't love that kind of marketing and brings in the people who are like, this is awesome.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's huge for any sort of marketing. We'll talk about how some people want to be so broad appeal and so generic that they won't offend anybody, and in doing that they don't have an appeal for anyone at all. So it's always interesting, that process of filtering out the people who were never going to buy from you to begin with, and really honing in on that subset that are going to be devoted customers.
Absolutely. And the funny thing is, like, if you just are honest to like what you believe, you're going to offend people. I mean, goodness gracious. Like, I straight up went on a live with my kid one day and people were like, look at her, she uses her kids for her marketing. And I was like, It's 2 a.m. and my son couldn't sleep, so we decided to do a live. Not the same thing as using my kids for marketing,
Right,
but
it's
like,
not your kid crying, please buy my mommy's stuff, please.
yes, for real. So, I mean, just being yourself, if you're truly yourself, not a muted version or a watered down version, you're going to offend people and also magnetize the people who love that.
Yeah, perfectly said. All right,
Yes.
that's a good place to end. Again, those are our questions. Had a blast having you on here. I really appreciate you taking the time.
This was awesome, Micah. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, we've really enjoyed it. For anyone who's listening or watching this and wants to reach out to you, what's your website, best method of contact right now?
Best place to contact me is rachelpedersen.com. That's all E's and a D in my last name.
Okay, perfect. We'll put that link in the description. Thanks again for being here. And thanks again to everyone who's watching on The Few, the Proud, the Profitable, where we only talk to legit online businesses. Make sure to review, to subscribe, and we'll catch y'all next time.